What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today, reactions to the classics. We are continuing our top 5 albums by year draft series, and today, Dad, we are up to your birth year.
We are, man.
1971.
So loaded. I mean, the last 2 years have been incredibly loaded, guys. If you haven't been following along, we've done 65 all the way up to right now to 1971. Check out those videos when this one is done. But yeah, Trey, this was a lot of fun. And the way we do this thing, it's draft style. I get the first pick this year, which really wasn't any advantage because so many albums are loaded.
Yeah.
You get picks 2 and 3, and sometimes I think that's a bigger advantage depending on how loaded a year is. And then I get 4, 5, and so on till we get to 10. So I guess with that, Trey, you want me to kick this bad boy out?
Dude, yeah, what? There's so many iconic records. What are you going to queue up for your first pick?
Well, guys, if you're a regular watcher of this channel, this is not going to surprise you. This is my top 10 albums of all time on the RTTC list that we did. I got Who's Next by The Who.
Great record.
5th studio album. Bob O'Reilly starts it. You got The Song Is Over. You got Getting in Tune, Behind Blue Eyes, and then it ends, of course, with Won't Get Fooled Again. Only 9 songs. So tight. I think the guys are at peak power. Daltrey sounds great. Townsend sounds great on their vocals. And then the instrumentation, obviously, with Moon and Entwistle. I mean, they are just on all. It's a great, great rock. It might be the greatest rock album, true rock and roll album of all time. So I had to take my first pick. But, man, there's about 5 albums that you could argue is number 1, and it'd be hard to argue against.
Well, I think it's interesting, too, looking at that in their catalog, too, coming kind of sandwiched between Tommy, the double concept rock opera, and Quadrophenia.
Yeah, exactly. This is a much more accessible. You can get in and out of this thing quickly and don't have to really dive into the story behind it too much, although there is a story behind it because it's actually for a play that didn't happen, but we won't get into all that.
Well, my first pick here, yet again, there were so many...
this was going to be my next pick.
So many records to choose. I'm going Rolling Stones, Sticky Fingers. My favorite Stones record, man. Yeah, I think really encapsulates the all-killer, no-filler type of a phrase that people love to say. It was actually the first number 1 that the Stones had in both sides of the pond, in the U.S. and the UK. We have Wild Horses. We have Moonlight Maya. We have one of my favorite Stones tunes, and Sway.
Oh, me too.
Of course, the opener, Brown Sugar, Dead Flowers. And you have The Jam and Can't You Hear Me Knockin'. What I like about this is the Stones just do so many different types of styles and sounds on this thing.
Seamlessly in the same album.
We have jams, we have heartfelt type of ballads, we have pure, just unadulterated rock and roll on here. Keith Richards in particular is on fire, but so is the whole band, man. And my favorite Stones record, had to give it love. And next up, I'm going with another absolutely iconic.
Which I think most people would have at number 1 that's watching this.
And we go from the best Stones record to the best Led Zeppelin record, in my opinion. They're untitled Led Zeppelin 4 right here. Obviously, you have Stairway. You have When the Levee Breaks, which features one of my favorite drum performances from anybody ever in Bonham, and the sound that they were able to get, like recording it at the bottom of a stairwell. Going to California and Battle of Evermore kind of give us a bit more of that acoustic flair. And then you got Rock and Roll and Black Dog showing Jimmy Page at the peak of his powers, man. I think this is the kind of congruence of the Plant's vocals, the lyrics, the riffs, all being in top form at once. For
I think they made so many albums so quickly that they're just in peak absolute form here. And I actually would have chose that. I'm not a huge Led Zepp guy. We have reviews of every one of Zepp's albums, those album rankings, song rankings, everything we've reviewed that's on this list will be in a link below. Go check that out. Trey, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, like I said, we're going to go on with another album. This album's actually number 1 on Rolling Stone's top albums of all time. We got What's Going On by the great Marvin Gaye. Iconic. Obviously, the title track, and then Mercy, Mercy Me. Actually talking about the environment, in 1971. Concept album. Great story behind it. Barry Gordy hated it.
Yeah, I've always found that interesting.
He hated What's Going On. He hated everything. It actually got released, just the song What's Going On. It went over so well that Barry actually drove to Marvin's house and said, man, please finish the whole album. But Marvin had the leverage before he's begging her. So he said, only if you let me self-produce it. So from there on in, Marvin had control of everything. And it's kind of a little glimpse, and Marvin still had a few quality things left in the bag after this album, but we kind of know his story. We actually watched a documentary on the fall of his life with the drugs and stuff. But this album shows what he could really, really do. A lot of Vietnam, and there's brother just come back from just just fantastic.
Well, and I think it's one of the great albums of all time in the regards to the transitions from song to song. It's so seamless.
Like we're just sitting here and you're just going, there is no, we're just sitting here and you're jamming.
And I think as you mentioned, the touch on Vietnam and racism and the environment and whatnot, it's really been able to stand the test of time all this time later.
For a black man in 1971 to do this, it's twice as impressive, man, in the world that we lived in and unfortunately still do in a lot of ways. But my next pick, my number 3 pick, Hunky Dory, David Bowie.
The great Bowie.
4 studio changes. Life on Mars. Andy Warhol.
Oh, yeah, man. This has some really underrated Bowie tunes.
It does, and this has gone up in my mind over the years. And we heard this a few years ago. We do have a review of this up. A lot of Bowie stuff. And before I heard this, I only ever knew like Let's Dance, Modern Love, the 1983 album, China Girl. I was 12 years old when that came out. I didn't know any early Bowie, and this album really blew me away. And unlike most, I prefer that run with, this album, Hunky Dory, Ziggy, Aladdin Sane, and a lot of people are more on the Berlin trilogy and that sort of stuff. I'm more on this, Bo, but I think it's fantastic.
No, man, I can't argue with either of those picks at all, man. And now going up to my 3rd pick, going to one of the great singer-songwriter records of all time by one of the greatest songwriters of all time, the great Joni Mitchell here. I'm going with Blue. This was only her 4th record as well. Her personal songwriting is able to, I think, really speak to the listener in a powerful way, even though they're coming from, obviously, personal stories in her life. There's still that connectability.
Exactly.
And the melodies in here are gorgeous. I mean, you have A Case of You, one of her most famous songs of all times. Carrie, Blue, which is just a lovely track that really is able to get to the melancholy and feelings of depression and blueness. California and My Old Man, River. I mean, this thing is, yet again, all killer, no filler,
It's
man.
definitely loaded.
I think Joni's vocal performance as well is fantastic on this thing. And a very succinct album and an easy one to listen to.
For sure.
So this has so much acclaim throughout the years as well. So had to give Joni some love. And next up, going something a little bit different here. Wanted something to really rock and roll, man. So what better to do that than one of the great live albums of all time? I'm going the Allman Brothers Band live at the Fillmore East. Recorded over 3 nights in March of '71 at the Fillmore East in New York City. Hendrix also has a great Fillmore a live record in
East and West were just iconic places.
And you just have some face melting jams here by the great Duane Allman, one of the great guitarists I think of all time, who, though he passed away so young, maybe he's not as, and the Allman Brothers weren't maybe as famous these days as they were back then.
As they would have been. Yeah, they definitely would have been in the canon of rock history a lot more than they are.
Oh yeah, so with him and other lead guitarist Dickie Betts putting in the work here, my favorites are In Memory of Elizabeth Reed, and then the whopping 23 minutes whipping post. Those are my highlights on the record. It's a bit it won't be for everybody since it is got some of that more jam sensibilities, if that's not your cup of tea, but
you will appreciate the musicianship. We did a review of this, an old school review of this for one of our patrons, Trucker Kev, a long time ago, and I was blown away by it. I didn't know what I'd think of it. I was blown away by it. So I think that's a great choice. Now we go to a group that is just always, they've appeared on a few lists, and they're always sort of bubbling under for me. I almost pick them, then I go with someone else, and you take them, or they don't quite make it. So I went with L.A. Woman by The Doors. 6th and final studio album, I'll say with Jim, but for me, that's where The Doors can and close. If it's not for you, that's great. But he died 3 months after the release, 9 in the U.S., 28 in the UK. Heavily blues influence. They didn't have much going into the studio. They just jammed on the spot. Morrison loved it, and most importantly, he was able to do it, Trey, because he was sober for the recording. So, we got Love Her Madly, we got the title track, of course, and then the famous Riders on the Storm. You could make an argument this is their best album, and I think their albums are very consistent. Once again, I don't think any of their albums are absolutely great, 9.75 out of 10, but I think all their albums are really good, and this one falls right in there. And then I'm going to finish out with what I think is Mr. John Lennon's best album. I know I'm in the minority. Everybody else likes Plastic Ono Band. I go with Imagine. 2nd studio album, of course, the iconic title track. We also got Crippled Inside, Jealous Guy. Those are the first 3 tunes.
Yeah, what a way to start the album off, man.
And then I Don't Want to Be a Soldier, Give Me Some Truth, How Do You Sleep? And then, of course, Oh Yoko,
Dude,
which
yeah,
always makes me laugh. But I think this is better than Plastic Ono Band. I think it's more accessible. But I had Plastic Ono Band higher on a previous list than this. But that's not because I think it was better. It just happens to be this year is so loaded.
No, man, I love that pick, man. I mean, the melodies on this are fantastic. John here, I think, is able to kind of hit that balance between really that personal, like crippled inside and jealous guy and whatnot, with some of his more, like Give Me Some Truth kind of anthem, and Imagine, like kind of world type of anthem. So
I think Imagine overwhelms the album for people in retrospect. The album is really, really good and really consistent. And I don't know that Mr. Lennon will pop up after his first 2 albums are great. After that, I don't want to ruin the suspense, but not sure he's making another list for me.
No, man, I like both of those picks right here. My last pick, man, I mean, there's so many different types of genres and styles that it was tough for me to choose here, but I landed on the great T-Rex glam rock record,
Mr.
Electric
Baldwin, man.
Warrior, their 6th record. This was, as I was kind of diving into some of the research of it, it surprised me. It was #1 in the UK for 8 weeks. Ooh. That's quite impressive. Obviously, Bolan on the guitar here is just delivering some iconic glam rock riffs here. Obviously, Bowie would be highly inspired by Bolan's work in the upcoming years, which we'll touch on, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will.
It just sounds fresh to this day, and Bolan's charisma really comes across in a great way. You have obviously Get It On, which is probably their most famous too, Bang a Gong, Get It On.
Which if you're my age, Robert Palmer and the Power Station remade this song in the 80s, so that's how I knew that song.
Oh, interesting. You also have Mambo Sun, Life's a Gas, Monolith, and then my favorite off this is actually Cosmic Dancer, a lovely production on this, just from start to finish. I think is well worth a listen if you haven't given it a spin.
And another band that we don't have much up at all, and don't have an album of on the channel. So now we get into the honorable mention, and boy, you could have flipped a coin, and a lot of these could have made it on.
So many unbelievable albums.
Songs of Love and Hate, Leonard Cohen. One of them that really hurt me, Teaser and the Firecat, Cat Stevens. T for the Tillerman actually made my list for the previous year, yet I think this album's better, but that tells you 70 was loaded, 71 is unreal. Got the Beach Boys, Surf's Up, great one.
Yeah, we have maybe a bit of an under-the-radar one, but I know we both listened to this.
We did, it's great, man.
The Flamin' Groovies, Teenage Head, man.
Very good.
Awesome rockin' album. You have Elton's Madman Across the Water, of course, in the running for one of the best songs of 71, and Tiny Dancer.
Definitely.
Title track's also phenomenal. Nielsen Schmielsen by the great Harry Nielsen. A little bit of Pink Floyd love and metal. We have Echoes on there, one of their best compositions. Some prog here. We have Aqualung, which I know you did a review of.
Yeah, there's a review up on the channel by the time you watch this of Aqualung. Very, very good. I'm not a huge prog guy. Could be hit and miss for me, but fantastic. We got Straight Up by Badfinger. We did a review of that. That's up.
That's right. Keeping with prog, which again isn't my favorite cup of tea, but Yes came out with a couple great records, and Fragile and the Yes album. We have Ram by Paul McCartney. And
you do.
Yeah.
You have Ram on your honorable mention. That was your addition there. I wouldn't have it on there. I know some of you McCartney people love it, but not for me, but
Another one of the highest selling records of the year, we have Tapestry by Carole King. Not as high on that as most people are. Keeping in that vein, American Pie by Don McLean. John Prine's self-titled. A lot of great singer-songwriter stuff.
Definitely.
Every Picture Tells a Story by my dude, Rod Stewart.
I was very high on that. That album almost made it. That album is fantastic.
And then a little bit of funk action with one of the great songs of the year, Maggot Brain, and it's a really good record too by the great Funkadelic.
Yes.
We have Maggot Brain, so and that's just probably scratching the surface of the year, man. So as you can see, Dad, it's only probably going to get more difficult from here on out.
We could have literally recorded this and then threw those 10 songs off and made another top 5 each in a draft with what was on honorable mention and a few others, and you guys wouldn't have known the difference.
No, 100%.
Because that's how good
this
this year was. But we didn't know what you think. Who do you think won this? I mean, is it a tie? I mean, I think it might be a tie. The album's just so good. But who won it, and what do you think? Let us know down below.
And be sure to also give a look to our Patreon page, which is linked down below and will be on the end screen, so you can make your voice be heard. Put up a poll for one of these records will be for our next listening party, which is going to be here on YouTube at 6 o'clock Central Time every Thursdays, man.
Exactly.
It's always a fun time to really just get together and kind of of a throwback to how I heard they did it back in the days with some of these album listening parties.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Trey puts up polls. Do you like this song? Thumbs up, thumbs down, or you know, we rate the overall album. So yeah, it is a great time and a really fun way to revisit a lot of these albums that, you know, maybe some of you haven't ever heard or haven't heard in a long time.
Well, Dad, I guess that will do it for us today. 72 is on the horizon.
It's on the way.
I think I see a guy named Ziggy out there.
I think he's out there, Trey. He's hard to miss over there on the horizon, that's for sure.
But until next time, y'all, thanks for watching. Happy listening, and we will see ya.